Welcome, valued travel partners. My name is Mark Spillane, and I'm excited to spend some time with you today, diving into all things Seabourn Expedition. But before I begin, just a few housekeeping items to go over. If you have any technical issues, please feel free to private chat Brittany, who you'll see listed there, that can assist you with any technical issues. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature of the chat box to put in any questions you may have. You can also thumbs up any questions that have already been asked, and that will help me find those questions that you also would like to hear answered, and I will answer those at the end of the webinar. And you can also download some of our materials that I'll talk about today in the handout section of the chat box. And finally, this webinar is being recorded, and everyone will receive a copy of the recording in the coming days ahead. So with that, I'm going to dive right in to the Seabourn Expedition experience. So as I mentioned, my name is Mark Spillane. I'm the Director of Expedition Sales here at Seabourn. Really excited to be here with you today. I work alongside all of our amazing Seabourn sales team members, but also, more importantly, all of you, our valued travel partners. I am an additional resource when it comes to the Seabourn Expedition experience, in addition to your sales manager. If there's anything that we can do to help you grow your Seabourn Expedition business, I'm always more than happy to jump on with you or your clients, whatever you need assistance with, so don't hesitate to reach out. So as we dive into the experience, Seabourn as a whole, we've had our ocean ships, right? So we have Seabourn Odyssey, Sojourn, and Quest, which are our smaller 450 passenger ships. And then we have our Seabourn Encore and Ovation, which are our larger 600 passenger ships. And then just within the last few years, we launched these two brand new ultra luxury purpose-built expedition ships, Seabourn Venture, which we launched in July of 2022, and Seabourn Pursuit, which we launched in August of 2023. So it's been a very busy few years here at Seabourn, and I can't wait to share with you all the excitement and the reason why guests are loving this experience. So to continue on with a little bit of history, I'm going to be talking about these two beautiful and amazing ultra luxury expedition ships. But we're not new to the expedition space. We actually announced that we were going to enter the expedition space with sailings to Antarctica. We announced that in 2011, with the maiden season of Seabourn Quest starting in 2013. So we had our 11th season down there this past Antarctic season. And we actually had all three ships down there, so it was very exciting. We had Seabourn Quest and then both Seabourn Venture and Pursuit. So it was an amazing season. And then in 2015, we announced our Ventures by Seabourn program, where we took some of that expedition experiences like the expedition team, Zodiacs, and kayaks, and we put them on some of our ocean ships in various destinations around the world. Probably the most thought after or sought after destination would be Alaska, where guests can sign up to do Zodiac cruising and kayaking and also interact with an expedition team member that is on board the ship. And then it was in 2018 we announced that we needed to build two ultra luxury purpose-built expedition ships to really tailor to our operation and take our guests further and deeper into these destinations with the Seabourn experience. And so that's exactly what we did with these two vessels. So why expedition? What is an expedition voyage? In case you're new to the expedition space, well, it's typically smaller ships like Seabourn Venture and Pursuit. We're going on adventurous itineraries, whether that's the Arctic, up to Svalbard, the Northwest Passage, down to Antarctica, even through the South Pacific and the Kimberley coast of Australia. These are really remote bucket list destinations. We're going to explore regions that few guests will ever get the chance to see, savoring life-changing moments, all on flexible itineraries, curated to take advantage of sea conditions and wildlife sightings along the way. And then why expedition with Seabourn? Well, our luxury Seabourn experience, which has been perfected and awarded over 30 years, we have put that onto an uncompromised expedition ship with a uncompromised shoreside experience. Of course, two of the newest luxury expedition vessels, which were custom built and innovative, and also our experienced expedition team members that I'll touch on all of these topics throughout today's presentation. So the ships themselves, Seabourn Venture and Pursuit, I mentioned when they launched, what I really love about them is they are true sister ships. They are identical. So it makes it very easy to understand and sell the Seabourn Expedition experience. The only difference between the two ships is going to be some artwork, but the suite categories, the layout, and the overall experience on board will be the same. We have 132 oceanfront suites, so our lead-in category is a veranda, and that's for a total of 264 guests. Both ships do have a PC6 strengthened hull, and that just means that the hull of the ships have been reinforced so that we can operate in the wonderful ice itineraries. And even that really fun maneuver where we find a nice patch of fast ice, we can put the ship right into the ice, allow the guests to walk right off the ship onto the ice, which is always a fun experience when we're able to do that. And you'll notice we have over 30,000 square feet of outdoor deck space. These ships were, you can tell, were designed by people with expedition experience. You want to be able to be outside with the expedition team, whether it's wildlife spotting, taking photography of the beautiful scenery and destinations that we're sailing through. But also a lot of the public spaces have access to the outdoors. So when wildlife is announced, which I wish we could control, but of course we can, and it's always exciting when it's announced, you want to be able to get outside quickly. And then, just as if not more important, both vessels custom built to environmental compliance, not only from a technology and onboard machinery aspect, but also with a dedicated environmental officer on board both ships, ensuring that we are protecting these destinations that we're visiting. Really excited that both Seabourn Venture and Pursuit are already award-winning ships. In 2023 Wave Awards, Seabourn Venture won Best New Expedition Ship, and then just this year in the 2024 Wave Awards, Seabourn Pursuit won Best New Expedition Ship. And I really love mentioning these awards, and I'll mention a couple others throughout the presentation, because it is a great way or a third-party endorsement for the product for your clients that you can share and let them know that not only is it a great product, but it's been award-winning, voted on not only by travel partners, but our guests that have been on board. And as we dive into the ships themselves, you'll see that they are very warm feeling, that it definitely gives you that ski lodge vibe type of experience. Both of these vessels were designed by Adam Tahani, who of course also designed Seabourn Venture and, Seabourn Encore and Ovation, Ovation and Encore, yep. And then also it does many luxury hotel properties around the world. So very well designed. Right here in the Expedition Lounge will be one of the first spaces that your guests will see upon entering the ship. It's a really great space in the evening to have a cocktail. We will host fireside chats here with the expedition team members, so a great way to interact with the knowledgeable team that we have on board. It's also conveniently located just one deck above the landing zone, which is what our mudrooms are called on board. So it's great for putting on any last minute pieces of equipment, maybe hats, gloves, anything like that before heading down to the landing zone and out into the Zodiac for the experience that day. Sometimes we may do musical entertainment in here, so it's a great multi-use space. If we go just forward on deck 4 here, we have our Discovery Center. This is really the heartbeat of the ship for many reasons. One is this is where the daily recap and briefings will happen. So typically each evening, we will host one of these daily recap and briefings with the expedition leader and his or her team. And we do this because a lot of the itineraries are flexible. So if you look at it, for example, an Antarctic itinerary, you'll see 5 to 7 days in a row of exploring Antarctica. And so it's here that we provide the guests with all the information and the plans for what we are planning to do the next day, where we expect to be, what the weather, sea and ice conditions are looking like, but also what we when we expect to start our operation for the day. That way there the guests can plan for the next day. We also do lectures in here. This is where we show our voyage video at the end of the voyage, which is always such a touching moment for all of these expedition voyages. But a really cool feature is we also have a Cineflex camera mounted to the mast of the vessel. So when we see wildlife that's up to 2 or 3 miles from the ship, and I'll give you a great example of this. I was on Venture up in the Arctic, and we were sailing between 2 destinations, and the amazing expedition team spotted a white polar bear on white ice about 2 miles from the ship, which I'm not even sure how they do that, but that's fantastic. And we turned on the Cineflex camera, we zoomed in on the polar bear, and we live streamed it here to the Discovery Center, where we invited guests to come down, view the video, but also had our polar bear expert, who's part of the expedition team, here interacting with the guests, describing the bear's behavior, the age or approximate age, whether it had eaten recently. So it was a great way to combine the knowledge of the expedition team, the wildlife of the destination, even while we're sailing between destinations and getting ready for additional operations. That same live stream is also sent to each and every guest suite TV. So even if the guests want to stay in their room or they're enjoying some downtime, they can turn it on and enjoy the same live stream. And then deck 4 in the aft, we start to enter some of our dining spaces. All of our dining venues on board are complimentary, so there's no additional charge. You don't need a reservation for any of them on the expedition ship, so it makes for a really great free-flowing expedition experience. The restaurant here is our main dining venue, open breakfast, lunch, and dinner on most days, rotating menus. Again, this is a very large restaurant. I believe it can hold 230 or so of the 264 guests, not to mention some of our other dining opportunities. So there's usually never a very long wait. You can dine when and with whom you wish. And then as we head up to deck 5, we'll start in the aft of the vessel. We do have our outdoor pool area. The pool is heated. I live in South Florida, so even in the polar regions, it's not heated quite warm enough for me, but we certainly do have guests that will enjoy it, even in the polar regions. And then we do have jacuzzis out here as well. And we have the patio or this dining area. Again, in the polar regions, might be a little bit too cold to dine, but we'll do activities out here or some of the signature Seabourn events out here. You may know Seabourn is known for caviar in the surf. Of course, many destinations we can't, that the expedition ships go, we might not be able to do caviar in the surf. So we'll do maybe a caviar in the ice event and invite all the guests out here with the officers, staff, and crew, and the expedition team, of course, for some caviar, champagne, other canapes. And it's a really great way to not only interact with fellow guests and the team members on board, but to take in the beautiful scenery that we offer or that we're sailing through. And there's even heaters in the ceiling here. So even if you are outside, you can certainly find some warmth in this region. If we go in the double doors here, we enter the colonnade. This is another dining venue that is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For breakfast and lunch, it's typically the European bistro or a buffet setup that guests can select the items. And of course, they rotate the theming and the menus throughout the voyage. And then for dinner, it is a sit-down menu service restaurant here in the colonnade. And if you're familiar with our ocean ships, we have an earth and ocean dining concept on our ocean ships. And while we don't have a dedicated space on our expedition ships for earth and ocean, we do rotate those menus on select nights here in the colonnade throughout the voyage, just to continuously keep that dining experience fresh and menus rotating on board the ship. And then we also have a Seabourn Square, which of course comes from all of our ships. And that's another amazing thing about the Seabourn fleet, whether you're just looking at the 2 expedition ships or our entire fleet together, there's a very continuous feel to them. Our guests will always feel like they're at home at Seabourn, no matter what ship they're on, and that's included here in the Seabourn Square. We have our wonderful cafe where we roast our own coffee on board the ship, so even in the most remote regions of the world, you can always wake up with some great coffee. We'll have fresh squeezed juices in the morning, breakfast pastries. In the afternoon, it'll switch to our homemade gelato that we make on board, and finger sandwiches and cookies and other pastries. This is also where our reception is, so if guests have any questions or need anything, we have our warm and welcoming staff here in the Seabourn Square to assist them. We have a wonderful library wall of expedition books and nature books that guests can enjoy throughout their voyage. Here in the Seabourn Square, we have a puzzle table that guests will enjoy on those sea days. And we also have our future cruise consultants desk here. So when your clients are on board and they make that next booking with us, that of course goes right back to all of you. They can do that here in Seabourn Square as well. And then probably my favorite lounge on board the ship is going to be the bow lounge. This is located deck 6 all the way forward. So you have the wonderful access to the full bow of the ship. You can go out there for great photography, wildlife spotting, or for sailing through some narrow channels, maybe at the Lemire Channel in Antarctica or some of the fjords in the Chilean fjords. It's a great place to go. And then inside you have this row of monitors that are mirror images from the monitors on the bridge. So the guest will see in real time as the navigational officers are maneuvering these screens. The expedition team is in here a lot. They love this space as well. So they're interacting with the guest, answering any questions, helping them with photography, or pointing out any of the sights to be seen as we're sailing. Of course, it's Seabourn, so you have a wonderful coffee machine, a water machine, a cooler with soft drinks and snacks, continental breakfast in the morning, and jarred salads and such snacks in the afternoon. We also, on Venture and Pursuit, we have an open bridge policy. So once guests get a taste for it here, they're welcome to come up on the bridge and experience what it takes to operate these expedition vessels, see the state-of-the-art infrastructure and technology that's on the ship, but also enjoy the spectacular viewpoints from the bridge. And then, of course, being brand new luxury expedition ships, we do have a full spa, salon, and fitness center, a really great fitness center. Even the fitness center has a outdoor deck space. So if you're working out and wildlife is spotted, you can get outside quickly. Or if just getting your workout in and want to cool off, if you're in a polar region voyage, then you can head outside. And then, of course, for those guests that want to indulge in the spa, massages, facials, all of that. We have the amenities for that. And we have two of these beautiful saunas with the windows to the outside, so you're not missing out on the beautiful destinations that we're sailing through, even when you're enjoying the sauna. And this is a really great place to go after doing the polar plunge. So whether it's up in the Arctic or the Antarctic, you jump into the waters there. This is a great place to come back and warm up from, or into one of the jacuzzis. Guests tend to enjoy both of those. And then we head up to deck 9 with some of our additional lounge spaces. Here we have the club and sushi bar. So this is an evening lounge space where we will have musical entertainment in each and every evening. We also have our sushi bar here. So this is another complimentary evening option for dinner, or some guests will enjoy it as an appetizer before going to either the colonnade or the restaurant for dinner. But myself, the amazing crew on board, I tell them, make me something, a platter or a plate, and they'll bring an amazing assortment of sushi, enjoy some music, a glass of wine. It's the great way to end a busy expedition day and get ready for the next one. And also on deck 9, all the way forward this time, and both of these lounges do have outdoor deck space. We have the Constellation Lounge. This is another venue that we have evening entertainment in. So for a smaller expedition ship, we usually have 2 to 3 different entertainment activities going on in the evening. So there is plenty to do for those that want to stay up. So we'll have evening entertainment here. It's a great bar, maybe some canapes. We'll also maybe on sea days do trivia, or an afternoon tea we do on all sea days. So this is another multifunction lounge space we have. Looking at the suites now, this is our lead-in category. This is our veranda suite. It's 355 square feet, including the veranda, so very well appointed. As I mentioned, we don't have any inside or windows, French balconies, anything like that. This is our lead-in category. You have your living room area, your fully interactive TV, lots of great movies, probably the most comfortable beds I've ever slept on here in your veranda suite. But I must mention my favorite feature, which I believe is unique to Seabourn, as I haven't seen it on any other expedition ship, is this warming closet. It's really important, as in especially in our polar voyages down to Antarctica or up in the Arctic, we're doing multiple operations a day. So when guests are going out in the morning, you might get wet, whether it's raining or snowing or it's just cold. You come back to the ship, throw your parka, your hat, your gloves, anything else you may want in here. Turn it on, go enjoy coffee, lunch, and by the time the ship has repositioned and we're doing our afternoon activities, not only is it dry, but it's warm to put back on and head out again. And that's what really starts to elevate the Seabourn Expedition experience. It's all these little details that sometimes the guests haven't even thought they would need. And then we have some of our additional suite categories, our panorama suites. These were introduced on Seabourn Venture and have quickly become the most popular suite category on board the expedition ships. And I'm sure you can see why. They're beautifully appointed. You have the bay windows there with floor-to-ceiling windows bringing in natural light, the beautiful destination. The bed faces out those windows. You still have your full veranda. And then the jacuzzi tub in the bathroom even has a window facing out to the destination. And then my favorite amenity here would probably be that the floors are not carpet. They are actually tile floors that can be heated. So you can flip that switch and have a nice warm floor to walk on those cold days in whether you're in the Arctic or the Antarctic. For those guests looking for more of our upper premium suites with more of a separation between the bedroom and living room area, we enter our penthouse suites. As you can see here, you start to get that separation between the living room and bedroom areas. And then we head up into our top three suite categories. All the way forward, we have our owner's suites. So you get a larger living room, dining room, and bedroom area. And then we have our two winter garden suites, and these are pretty unique and probably one of my favorites, along with the panorama suite. These have they're 2 stories, and they have 2-story floor-to-ceiling windows. So as you enter the suite, you just have these beautiful views, a lot of natural light. The first floor is your living room entertainment space. You can have cocktail parties with people you're traveling with, or maybe friends you've met along the way. And then in the second story, you have your bedroom area. So your bedroom, there's a bathroom on both floors. Everything is automatic, from the blinds closing on remote control to the TV popping up from the stand at the end of the bed. Really an amazing way to travel. And then we also have our 2 signature suites, which are located in the aft of the vessel. So you have, again, that larger living room, dining room, and separate bedroom area. But you also, what's unique to the signature suites is these are the only 2 suites on board that have private jacuzzi tubs on them. And of course, as I mentioned, they're in the aft, so you have beautiful views, and you could just imagine enjoying maybe some caviar and champagne as you're in your jacuzzi, sailing through the Chilean fjords or Antarctica, the Arctic, and even some of our warmer destinations through the South Pacific and Kimberley. So that's the Seabourn Expedition experience on board. As you can see, it is the true Seabourn experience that has been perfected and award-winning for more than 30 years. We've just shrunk that down to a smaller footprint on an expedition ship, and then we combined it with an uncompromised expedition experience off the ship. And as I transition to that side of things, I always like to just mention, who we are seeing as the Seabourn Expedition guests. Of course, they're guests who enjoy international travel, culture, and nature adventures. They love gourmet food and wine, skiing and safaris. We are seeing a lot of guests that have traveled or travel often doing safari come over to the expedition space because it is very similar in the experience. They're active learners and doers who embrace a sense of purpose in life and appreciate elite, guided, off the beaten path experiences. They're adventurous, they're passionate, they're purposeful, inspired, and of course, very respectful of nature. Those who enjoy various hobbies such as photography, birding, scuba diving, history. These are all things that we have at Expedition Voyages that cater to those hobbies. So that's a great way to form a group, or to even just to get a few people together that would go on these expedition voyages. And then, of course, we're seeing a lot of non-cruisers, or people who have previously never considered a cruise. And that's whether because, they just don't want to cruise, or they've never heard of cruise. Shocking. I think there's still some people out there that haven't. Or when they think of cruise, they think the large ships and touristy ports, and that's, of course, the very opposite of what an expedition is. Places like Antarctica, you're not going to see any other people but the people you're traveling with. And you're also sailing with the expedition team, and those people love that because you're not just with the local experts for a few hours in port. They're with you in the Zodiacs, going ashore, kayaking. They're on the ship having dinner with you, having a cocktail, a fireside chat, maybe in the bow lounge. So that's a very immersive experience for the entire voyage. And this amazing expedition team that I've been mentioning a few times. Both Seabourn and Seabourn Venture and Seabourn Pursuit have a very large expedition team. It's a 24-person team on both ships. And these are people who have dedicated their lives to the destinations that we're sailing. So whether they're wildlife experts, scientists, historians, naturalists, glaciologists, ornithologists, these are people that are passionate about these destinations, and they're even more excited to be sharing their knowledge, their experience, and really, in some cases, their home to the guests that are on board. And so when it comes to itineraries and where we're sailing, we have 4 main destinations with, of course, some beautiful itineraries as we're sailing to and from these destinations. But of course, we have Antarctica, which has quickly become the most popular experience. And we have both Seabourn Venture and Seabourn Pursuit sailing down in Antarctica, which I'll touch on in a moment. And then Seabourn Venture explores the Arctic, and of course that is currently where she is. So that's usually June through September. She'll be up in the Arctic. And then we have Seabourn Pursuit that sails through the South Pacific for some wonderful warm weather expedition voyages. Usually that's twice a year as she sails to and from the Kimberley. So that's March, April, May. And then again in the fall in late August, September, and into October. And then, of course, we have the Kimberley. This is where Seabourn Pursuit currently is, and I'll touch on that as well. So let's start up in the Arctic. Wonderful itineraries. I love the Arctic for its variation. You know, no matter what your clients are looking for, we have a voyage for them. So whether they're looking for the king of the north, the polar bears, we have voyages up to Svalbard where they'll experience that. We have voyages up into Northeast Greenland National Park and Scoresby Sund, which is also possible to spot polar bears. Or through the Northwest Passage if they want to do that iconic voyage and really do a bucket list destination. I also really enjoy culture of some of these remote regions. So we have voyages up in Greenland, South Greenland, West Greenland, meeting with the Inuit communities there, exploring ashore with them, with our expedition team, learning their way of life, their culture, how they live in such a remote part of the world. They'll typically put on cultural performances. So we have all of these varied options for the guests. Looking at a couple of voyages, I just put a couple here that we still do have space on for next month. And we are seeing close-in bookings, which for the longest time, especially before COVID, Expedition was always a very far-out booking window. But we've seen that change, especially after COVID. And what's really great in the Arctic, almost all of our voyages, the guests go to and from Reykjavik. So that means whether the ship sails from Reykjavik or the ship will sail from another port like Kangerlussuaq, Greenland, but the guests will still fly into Reykjavik. We have a one-night pre-hotel stay included and a charter flight to bring them over to Kangerlussuaq, Greenland. So that's a very easy destination to get into. I think it's only 6.5 hours from New York or so. So it's very easy to get to, which I think also helps last-minute bookings. And then I'll touch on this at the end, but we did just launch a promotion yesterday for close-in voyages that provides up to $2,000 per suite in air credit for booking your air through Seabourn. So that'll also help with getting to these destinations. But we have voyages that I mentioned going up into Scoresby Sound, beautiful remote part of East Greenland, beautiful glaciers, fjord systems, possible polar bear sightings. We have Iceland, which has become so very popular over the years. So we have voyages that do almost a complete circumnavigation of Iceland and then head up into Northeast Greenland National Park and Scoresby Sound. So you get Iceland, but you also get the very, very remote part of Greenland. And then, as I mentioned, some of the cultural experiences on that last 15-day voyage on the right. And as we take a look to next year, we do, as I mentioned, go to Svalbard, and we have multiple, I believe we have up to 3 different options for guests looking to experience Svalbard. And here, if the ship is sailing round trip Longyearbyen up in Svalbard, we include a one-night pre-hotel stay in Edinburgh and round trip charter flights. So that makes it much easier. And then, of course, if it's a one-way, we'll include the one-way charter flight, and then the voyage will end in either Reykjavik or wherever it may end. So we have options going up to Svalbard. We also, next year, we're doing 2 Northwest Passage voyages. So we did our inaugural Northwest Passage voyage last year on Seabourn Venture, and it was so well received by the guests who were on board. We are not doing one this summer, so next summer we're doing 2 of them. The ship will sail from Kangerlussuaq, Greenland in West Greenland. Of course, guests will fly into Reykjavik, which makes it easier for them, and we have a one-night pre-hotel stay included. And then we will have a charter flight taking all those guests over to Kangerlussuaq to board the ship. They'll do the voyage through the Northwest Passage, and then it ends in Nome, Alaska, where we will then have a charter flight take them to Anchorage and have a one-night post-cruise hotel in Anchorage. Again, just making the flights as easy as possible. And then the ship is going to turn around and do the exact same thing. So they're back-to-back voyages. Whatever time frame works best for your clients, both of them are sure to be a spectacular voyage. Going through these, I wanted to share some photos. All of these are right from Seabourn Venture in the Arctic. Wonderful wildlife. I've mentioned the king of the north, the polar bear, but also reindeers, seals, walruses, which have a fantastic personality, countless seabirds, including puffins. We have voyages that guests can see puffins. That's always frequently asked. Beautiful scenery. That always gets me. Again, as I mentioned, living in Florida, we certainly don't have any of this type of scenery. So whether it's the fjords, the geology, the glaciers, the icebergs, it's just a stunning region to explore. And we're doing that with the expedition team. We're going out in the Zodiacs, we're landing ashore. All of this is included experiences for the guests. So there's no additional charge for the Zodiac cruises, landings ashore. Even if we're in ports that have a bit more infrastructure, we still included shore excursions that they can sign up for. Now, there may also be additional charge options available, but with Expedition on our Venture and Pursuit, the guests will always have something included for them to do each day that they're in port or in a destination. And as I mentioned, we're going ashore with these expedition team. Whether if it's really remote, we're exploring with the expedition team, looking at the geology. Like you have this beautiful layer cake geology that you see here in Scoresby Sund, looking at the flora, the fauna, and just really exploring with these knowledgeable experts. And this is in Scoresby Sund, and then also in Northeast Greenland National Park. You see these beautiful icebergs. They're larger than Seabourn Venture herself, and it really shows you the power of Mother Nature and humbles you, and the guests really come back a different person. And then I also like to mention, this is Navrana. She was part of our expedition team last season. She is a local in West Greenland. So not only was she on board for the season, sharing her culture, her way of life, but going ashore with the guests and giving them, of course, walking them through villages, which we also, when we land ashore in the Inuit communities, have locals that join us with the expedition team to go through their village. They're usually very excited, as I mentioned, putting on cultural experiences, offering maybe a taste of their local cuisine, and again, their culture, their history. So she was actually pictured here in a place called Itukkatormit, which is the entrance to Northeast Greenland National Park, or into Scoresby Sund. And she was so excited to be here because, as I mentioned, she lives on West Greenland. This Scoresby Sund is East Greenland, and it would have taken her something crazy amount of flights and travel time to get there. So she was excited to also explore this part of Greenland for the first time with our guests. And then we also have our optional experiences. Here we have our kayaking, which we do up in the Arctic. Of course, it's very weather, sea, and ice condition dependent, but for those guests that do want to sign up, it is one of 2 additional charge activities. And I believe currently the cost is about $200 per person. But we have 2 dedicated kayak guides as part of our expedition team that'll scout the area that we're in that day and then bring the guests to the best area. Let them, of course, enjoy their experience. Being at water level in these really remote places is, again, another truly humbling and life-expanding experience, but also there to point out any points of interest, wildlife, etc. And then we also do deploy our submarines on board. We have 2 of them. Each of them holds 6 guests. This is another additional charge option if the guests want to sign up for it. I believe in the polar regions, it's about $1,000 per person. It's in total about a 45-minute dive under the water with the expedition team member who is the navigator of the submersible. Both of these experiences, once guests are booked, they can sign up for them in their pre-cruise check-in center, like a shore excursion. However, they're not signing up for a specific day or time. Once they're on board the ship, if they've signed up, the expedition team will reach out to them and they will coordinate a day and time for their kayak experience or their dive. And that's simply because we need to see what the weather and sea and ice conditions are going to be like before we can confirm specific days and time. And then here we're going to take a quick look at a video of the beautiful Arctic experience.
Leader, Polar Bear Scout. Polar Bear Scout, go ahead. Expedition Leader, we see a polar bear on the hill just to the west of the landing site. Understood. Breach, Expedition Leader.
Go ahead, Expedition Leader.
Stand by for further information.
I always love that video. Makes me ready to go back to the Arctic. So now we're going to transition down to Antarctica. Of course, another amazing, beautiful polar region destination. Here in Antarctica, all of our voyages are round trip Ushuaia, but we do include a one-night pre-hotel stay in Buenos Aires and charter flights round trip. So all of the guests will book their flights into and out of Buenos Aires, making it very easy to get down to this beautiful region. And once, again, I mentioned some of the accolades that you can share with your clients. We were very proud to win Travel Weekly's Best Cruise Line for Antarctica. That was this past season when we had both our ships, Seabourn Venture and Pursuit, there for the very first time. So it was, as I mentioned, an amazing season, and we were quite honored to receive that accommodation or reward as well. So once we get down to Antarctica, of course, guests are looking for penguins and they don't have to look very far. I absolutely love penguins. I could spend all day with them, multiple days in a row. You have your chinstrap penguins up in the top left, your Adelie penguins in the bottom left, which have the white circle around their eyes, and of course the chinstrap penguins, which have that black line that looks like a chinstrap. These are the three penguin types you're likely going to see when you're exploring the Antarctic Peninsula. But there's other great wildlife, but before we dive into that, let's take a quick look at some penguin activity.
Seabourn Venture gets you closer to wildlife than anywhere else in the world. They were gentle penguins, they were swimming close to us but trying to avoid us really fast, and that could only mean one thing: leopard seal chasing them. All of them jumped really quickly, desperate for their lives, and later we saw the leopard seal swimming next to us. So she was pumping out the head out of the water. There was 2 encounters for the price of 1.
So as you can see, it very much is a safari experience. You are in nature and wildlife and experiencing it for the first hand. But as I mentioned, other great wildlife, you saw mention of leopard seals, there's crab-eater seals, countless whale life as well. Now, if you have guests that are really interested in whales, you'll see them throughout the season, but the best time to see the most amount of whales is going to be in February or towards the end of the season. So I always like to mention that. However, I've been down there on the very first voyage of the season and we see whales as well. You'll just see a lot more of them towards the end of the season. Some of the voyages that we have in Antarctica, we have 3 different voyages once we're down there. We have our 11-day voyage. This is the most frequent voyage that we offer. Again, round-trip charter flights from Buenos Aires. The ship sails from Ushuaia, and this offers 5 full days of exploring the Antarctic Peninsula. We do offer multiple landings a day, so we'll be in one location in the morning, typically until 1 o'clock in the afternoon or so, and then all the guests will come back on board, whether they were doing landings or Zodiac cruises or kayaking or the submersible. We'll reposition the ship and then do another activity in the afternoon, redeploying all of those experiences. And then I've also been asked a lot about if guests do kayaking, do they miss out on a landing if that's what the other guests are doing? And the team is amazing, and they'll always try to get the guests that are doing kayaking for a landing as well. So once they're all done with their kayaking experience, they'll then take them in a Zodiac over to do a landing. So they don't have to worry about missing out. And then for guests that have just a couple extra days, I always recommend the 13-day Antarctica exploration, as it gives us those 2 extra days, so a full 7 days exploring the peninsula. And what this 2 extra days allows us to do is just to explore a bit further and deeper. So we can go south below the Lemire Channel and possibly below the Antarctic Circle. Or if, again, it all depends on the weather, sea, ice conditions. If we can't do that, we'll head up into the northeast part of the peninsula, into the Weddell Sea, and explore that region. That region, especially early on in the season, is really great for the fast ice. So more opportunities to possibly put the ship into the ice and open the shell door and let the guests walk right out from the ship onto the ice. And then, of course, it can't be guaranteed. It's very rare, but I think at least once a season for the last couple of years, when we're exploring in this area, we spotted an emperor penguin or 2, which are very difficult to spot as they tend to be farther inland. So a really great itinerary with a lot more exploration with just those 2 extra days. So if clients can do that, I always recommend those. And then we do have the 21-day voyage for those guests that want to see everything that this region has to offer. You get the full Antarctic Peninsula experience, but also later in there, we'll spend a couple of days exploring the Falkland Islands, where there's additional penguins you can see from the macaroni penguins. Of course, you can also see some king penguins there. But the highlight of this itinerary is going to be the days we spend exploring South Georgia, a beautifully remote region of this world. There are landing sites here that have 500,000 king penguins, which you can see pictured to the right there at the landing site. So you can imagine just landing and seeing all of these penguins that are pretty large. They could be up to 3 feet tall. Greeting you along with elephant seals. It's just extremely biodiverse and very different from the Antarctic experience, as you can also see greenery that's pictured there that you don't get so much in the peninsula. So a really wonderful itinerary for those guests that have the time for exploring all of these locations. And then again, just like the Arctic, going out in Zodiac cruises, included in the cruise, landings ashore. If we do hikes, up to different penguin colonies, all with the expedition team, all of that's included. I also like to mention, again, kind of going back to demographics, a lot of times expedition, people think you have to be extremely fit and active to do it. And you really don't have to, and especially with Seabourn, and I love that. You can see landing here, the penguins are going from their colony or their rookery down to the water and back. So even landing or stepping foot, the guests will see the wildlife. They'll even see it, of course, from the ship. But a lot of guests go because they want to step foot on the seventh continent, which they can do so. Typically they have 2 hours to spend ashore in one destination. But the team is very flexible. If the guests just want to step foot and say they did it, and they don't have the stamina and they want to go back early, there'll always be an expedition team member and a Zodiac ready to take them back. We don't want anyone to feel marginalized by their abilities. But also on the other end, if they want to maximize their time on shore, we can work with them to accommodate that as well. And we do also do our optional kayaking experiences here. And we're going to take a quick look at a kayak experience with a minke whale.
We had a little encounter in Antarctica. We saw this whale glowing. It was so quiet, I could hear the guest's heartbeat. The whale decided to follow us, and it even almost touched the bow of my kayak. The reaction of every guest, they start breathing again. They stop breathing for a couple of minutes. You could hear now not the blow of the whale, but the blow of the guest. It was a once-in-a-lifetime encounter.
And this is exactly what I love about expedition. It's sometimes guests get a little uncomfortable with the flexibility and not being able to advise exactly what they're going to experience each and every day. It's this unknown combined with the knowledge and the expertise of our team that create these beautiful Seabourn moments in various destinations around the world. And then this is the submersible. I just like to show this because the photos there are from dives in Antarctica, just to kind of give you a brief insight to what it looks like. Of course, you don't have the coral reefs and coral fish, but you have some wonderful corals that are a little bit darker. You have starfish. You'll see lots of krill, which are the main food source in the polar regions. And really, you're diving in places that many people don't get a chance to do, or in some cases, never been dived before. So it is a true expedition and a highlight for guests, especially if they're not certified scuba divers and they haven't been under the water. This is a comfortable way to do it. However, guests do need to be a bit more mobile, as they do have to climb down those 3 steps there and into the sea. So those are the cold weather regions. Touching on those, I'm going to shift over briefly to the warmer weather destinations, and this is exploring through the South Pacific. Seabourn Pursuit did her inaugural season just this past spring through the South Pacific, and it was so well received by the guests. It's a beautiful destination for guests that don't love the idea of traveling to the cold weather places for their vacations. So, of course, starting over in South America and heading towards the Kimberley coast of Australia, we have a voyage that spends 2 days in iconic Easter Island. We'll do multiple landings there. We did last time we were there for the guests to explore that region. We're also going to visit 2 islands in the remote Juan Fernandez Islands, which is sorry, it's Robinson Crusoe and Selkirk Islands there. So for guests that are country collectors, we'll also look for the pink-footed shearwaters there. The Juan Fernandez fur seals are there as well. We'll spend some time exploring 3 islands in the Pitcairn group. Now, this is a little bit harder due to weather and all of that to do landings. Of course, that'll always be our first action or attempt will be to get the guest ashore. If we can't, there's wonderful snorkeling to do in this region. Maybe we'll have some of the locals come on board for cultural experiences, maybe some handicrafts for sale, that kind of thing. So still a wonderful time. And then, of course, on this voyage, we'll do snorkeling, as I mentioned, diving as well. And this voyage ends in Papeete, and then we continue on. We will see a cross-section of the South Pacific's most beautiful islands, spectacular snorkeling and scuba diving, which we do offer for guests who are advanced certified. They do have to sign up in advance, and I believe it's limited to 8 guests per voyage. But for those that qualify, we offer that. And then, of course, some great World War II history in this region, whether it's artifacts related to the Pacific Theater, of course, an infamous chapter of World War II. We'll look at ghostly shipwrecks from the Pacific War times in Chuk Lagoon. And then Santo Island has amazing World War II wreck diving and culture in that region. And then as we continue towards Southeast Asia, we'll explore Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, again, for spectacular snorkeling. We'll culture. I love this area for the culture. We'll go to Rabaul, where we'll experience the Baning Fire Dance with the guests, visit with the welcoming people of Micronesia. And then again, as we reach Southeast Asia here, we'll have some incredible snorkeling and diving at protected and thriving coral reefs. Village visits will be welcomed by dance performances. In Raja Ampat, we'll visit the beautiful limestone karsts in that region. And then, of course, meet the mysterious people of the Agats, which I'll share a couple of photos from our experience just recently there. So no matter what the guests are looking for, it's a wonderful destination to explore with these smaller ships. As I mentioned, from the snorkeling in Fiji, the Asmat villages and the mysterious Asmat people, to ruins and history, wildlife that I've mentioned a few of, land diving in Pentecost Island, which was the basis for modern day bungee jumping, just a wonderful destination. And then here is us going up one of the rivers as Pursuit was here, meeting with these mysterious people. And this is an amazing day for the guests. We actually take all 264 guests off the ship in our 24 fleet of Zodiacs, all together up the river, and we're met and surrounded by these locals in their war canoes. And it really is an immersive experience. And the guests, again, it's another one of those days that they really come back an improved or a better changed person. So it's a wonderful itinerary. These itineraries, again, no matter what the guests are looking for, they'll have an amazing time. As I mentioned, we do have snorkeling in a lot of these destinations, scuba diving, and this is all to get the ship over to the Kimberley, which is where Pursuit currently is. And these are wonderful 10-day voyages through the Kimberley. And whether it's we're visiting King George Falls, Hunter River, there's incredible geological formations in this region, a variety of bird life, of course, also saltwater crocodiles, so we won't be doing snorkeling or scuba diving in this region. And we also don't use our kayaks or submersibles. This is a region that we focus mainly with the expedition team and the Zodiacs, going ashore, doing Zodiac cruises, also learning the culture and the history of the communities here. And here's just some photos of the region that I wanted to share as well. And one of the places we visit, of course, is Jar Island. And I mentioned that because just this past, now it's about a week and a half ago, on Saturday, June 29th, you may have seen, we held the christening or the naming ceremony for Seabourn Pursuit. And it really was a historic day. We decided to go against or away from the traditional godmother route. And what we did is we really looked in our hearts and what Seabourn is really all about. out. And we wanted to find a way to give back to the communities and create a sustainable relationship with these communities for years to come. So we had announced that the traditional landowners, the Wanambal Gambara people, as godparents of Seabourn Pursuit, and we had two descendants of the original landowners that christened the vessel, named the vessel, and gave it its blessing. There is a wonderful video. It is a little bit longer to show in a webinar, so it's I think it's almost 4 minutes. But if you go onto Seabourn's Facebook page or YouTube page, it is there. I highly recommend taking a watch. It is a really emotional and moving video of the historic day. So as I finish up, I just want to mention some of the partnerships and inclusions that we have. Of course, on the polar voyages, we do include a parka, which is a Helly Hansen parka for all guests. They'll order that on our website. It'll be in their suite when they arrive. And then, of course, not to worry, there'll be a note there telling them to try it on. If it doesn't fit exactly right, there'll be a place and a time that they can go and exchange it for the correct size. And of course, that's for them to keep at the end of their voyage. We also have a wonderful partnership with Swarovski. So each and every suite will have a pair of Swarovski binoculars on board for the guests to use throughout their voyage. So again, one less thing for the guest to pack. And then we also provide on the polar voyages a beanie hat. We also provide a dry bag for the guests to use. And then, of course, all guests will get a stainless steel water bottle. Again, in our sustainability efforts, we have no disposable plastics on board. So we have refilling stations all throughout the vessel that do both still and sparkling water. So guests can have use that throughout their voyage, whether it's on the ship or going ashore. And, of course, keep that at the end of their voyage. We also have a full supply of boots on board, so no need to worry about renting them, purchasing them, anything like that. The guests will arrive on the ship, and the voyages that need the muck boots for wet landings or anything like that, the expedition team will host what I like to call a boot fitting party, just to make it sound more fun, and invite all the guests down to the landing zone to get them fitted for their boots. And then there's a storage area there for the guests to keep those boots throughout the voyage. So that's the Seabourn difference. We really believe that true luxury isn't just about going places. It's about being moved deeply, joyfully, and unexpectedly. And here at Seabourn Expedition, that's exactly what we do. We've brought luxury to the farthest reaches of this beautiful planet, and now guests don't have to make a compromised decision when joining or deciding to travel to the ends of the earth. And then also, I mentioned social media briefly, but if you don't, highly recommend you follow us on either Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We do a really great job of not only producing and putting out our own content, but what I really love at Seabourn is we reshare our guests' posts. So again, it's that third-party endorsement or third-party experience that we're sharing on our social media of our guests in the moment on the ships enjoying their experiences. And then, of course, Steve Smotries, who's our Vice President of Sales and Trade Relations, he does have one dedicated to our travel partners, which is at Seabourn Partnerships. If you give that a follow, you'll always be up to date on the latest and greatest. And then our two promotions, we actually just launched yesterday, and these are what the handouts are. We have one promotion, which is More Moments on Us. This promotion is for farther out itineraries, so the second half of 2025 into 2026, and this provides up to $2,200 shipboard credit per suite to have more moments on us. And that's whether they want to do the kayaking or the submersible, or they want to enjoy the spa, or they want to have an upgraded connoisseur's list bottle of wine or champagne, or enjoy some retail therapy in the retail shop on board. It's just a way to further enhance their experience. As I mentioned, launched yesterday, and that goes all the way through September 3rd. So plenty of time to get your guests booked with that promotion. And I alluded to this one earlier. This is our Flight Ease Air Credit promotion for those closer in voyages. So these are through the end of this year and into maybe Q1 of 2025. And these are voyages that will provide up to $2,000 per suite air credit for booking their flights through Seabourn, just to help with those air costs. We know they can be a little bit challenging, especially closer in. So we will have that promotion for those voyages. So with that, I really thank you for your time today, sharing all things Seabourn Expedition with you. And I'm going to come back on screen here and take a look over to the Q&A section. We have about 6 or 7 minutes here, and I'll try to get through as many as I can. If I can't, rest assured, I'll get a copy of all the questions that were asked, and then I will make sure we get you an answer to your questions. So first question, I'll start at the top here, a copy of the video that was shared. Yes, if you're not logged or signed up for our onesourcecruises.com, which is our shared travel advisor center, we share that with Holland America, Princess, in Cunard. There's a tab for Seabourn. If you're already logged in, you can just click on Seabourn. And then there is a video section that has all of our videos. The other way to get them, I mentioned briefly, was YouTube. We have our Seabourn YouTube channel. You can always grab the link. I know sometimes that's easier for a lot of guests just to click on a YouTube link. You can send that from there as well. And that's got the videos that I shared today, our new Kimberly christening ceremony video that I mentioned, and a swath of other amazing videos. Great question. The demographics, yes. So I mentioned a little bit about who we're seeing. To drill a little bit deeper, we have, of course, Expedition, and being a luxury expedition product at that price point, we tend to see a little bit older clientele, but it's still younger than our ocean ships. So you're looking maybe at an average age of around 60, but we are seeing a lot of multi-generational families, which is really exciting to me. Typically, it's older children, maybe high school, college-aged children, or they're not really children at the part, but or we've had a few children on board that are younger than that. It's an amazing. Some of these destinations, especially like Antarctica, are amazing to bring children, as it really is an immersive learning experience. We do have a minimum age of 6 years old, so no children under 6. And even with all of that said, we don't get a ton of children, but every once in a while we'll have a few. So those are just a few kind of anecdotal points, but we've seen really a wide range. And I think as the Seabourn experience continues to build with clients, I do expect the average age to dip a little bit younger, even more, which is great. But then again, we still get clients that are older. We get clients that are in their 80s. I've been down to Antarctica with clients well into their 90s. Some will just want to, like I said, step foot on Antarctica, say they did it. Some will never get off the ship. And I think Antarctica is a great place if that's the case, because you're immersed in the experience. You'll see penguins from the ship, seals from the ship, whales. It's a wonderful experience, even if you have multiple people traveling together and one's not comfortable. So it really can be worked for all people. I'll also share just a quick story on mobility too, going back to my earlier points. We even had 2 permanently wheelchair-bound guests on board. I sailed with them actually back in November down to Antarctica. They were an amazing couple. They knew they couldn't take their wheelchair ashore, but they wanted to experience it. And the expedition team was so good and accommodating. We got them into Zodiac so that they could at least participate in Zodiac cruises. We did the ice landing with the ship put right into the ice, and they were able to come out onto the ice as well. The ship themselves, of course, we have accessible suites, we have elevators and all of that. So we're as accommodating as can be in that regard. Let's see. Dress code, another great question. And this is also a little different than our ocean ships. We are less formal on the expedition ships. We have no formal nights on board. So country club casual, slacks and a collared shirt for men is perfectly acceptable, especially in the colder regions. You'll see a lot of nice sweaters and that kind of thing. It is a very much more relaxed experience on board the expedition ship. Let's see. So the inclusiveness, so I went over a lot of the items that were included. The one thing I didn't mention is we also include Wi-Fi, and it is Starlink. I've personally done video webinars and video calls from both the Arctic and the Antarctic. Really important to note, because that really opens up a whole new demographic of guests who can travel to these regions. So if they're a business owner and they need to check in on their business, they're no longer disconnected for the entire voyage. So that is included for the guests. Of course, all the meals, your alcohols, your soft drinks. The only thing additional is really your spa services if you want to do the sub and kayak. And then the retail shop. That's pretty Any medical restrictions for the sub? Nope, just as long as they have the mobility to get into the sub. The sub is boarded actually in the water, so the sub will be on the surface of the water and all you'll see is the very top of it. You get into a Zodiac and the Zodiac comes alongside the top of the sub, which you then step from the Zodiac to on top of the sub and then step down those 3 stairs. So as long as guests are able to do that, then they should be all right. Let's see. Went over the dining included, the beverages included, copy of the videos. Yep, all of those are on YouTube and also in our OneSource. So for the charter flights to Ushuaia, the type of plane, typically they're A320s, all economy class. So we don't have a business class or a first class on those charter flights. It's only about a 3.5 hour flight, I believe. And so when I last took it in November, it is fully catered. So we'll have meals, snacks, drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic on board for that quick trip from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia. And then, yep, my email, you're always welcome to email me. It's my first name, or my first initial M, and then my last name Spillane, which is Spillane. So that's M Spillane at Seabourn.com. If you don't get it or you get a bounce back, sales at Seabourn.com, and just ask to be connected with me, and the team will absolutely do that. Let's see. Are we looking on? Oh, we're right at 2 o'clock. So I will go ahead and end it here, but I do know there were other questions. So I will be sure to get those answers to you. Again, I just want to really thank you for your time today. I know how valuable it is. We're all extremely busy, especially this time of year. And I really hope that when you have clients thinking of the Seabourn expedition or thinking of an expedition experience, that Seabourn is top of mind for you. And I look forward to working with you all. Thank you again.